Hi everyone. Thanks so much for coming out. It's such a pretty day out there. Thank you for coming inside to hang out with us. We are really excited to welcome the Connecticut Audubon Society back to our stage and to welcome Jill, the bird girl, back. She's here again, and she's going to present Birds of Prey today. So we're going to meet two birds. We're going to meet a hawk and an owl, Millie, and what's the other one's name? Bella. So they're here, and Jill is going to introduce them to us and talk about Birds of Prey. We also have a couple of handouts back there that I want to draw your attention to. The Wildlife in Crisis Care and Conservation Center is going to be doing an owl release in 2 weeks. They rehabilitated an owl that was found hurt on the side of the road over the winter, and she's now ready to be released back into the wild up at Waveney Park. So if you're into birds, that is a really wonderful opportunity to see how people can help animals move back into their natural habitat after an injury. We also have a handout about our Museum Madness series that's coming up. We're inviting a bunch of local museums that are part of our free Museum Pass program, which you can check out up at the circulation desk, to share the things that they're most excited about their institution. So grab one of those and plan out a few Saturdays to come join us again. And without further ado, here is Jill.
Can everyone hear me? Okay? Okay. So my name's Jill. I'm from the Connecticut Audubon Society based in Fairfield. I've worked there. This is my 9th year. I went to the University of Delaware and studied wildlife conservation, and I have a master's in teaching, and I currently am a high school science teacher at Ludlow in Fairfield. I love birds. Specifically today, we're going to be talking about birds of prey. Does anybody know what a bird of prey is? A predator, so it's a bird that eats other animals. It doesn't forage for insects or seeds like all the little birds that you see out in the feeders. So a couple of side notes. When we're IDing different birds, it's always nice to have a field guide. I suggest this field guide for beginners because it's based on color. If you have one in your lap now that you're looking at and you scroll through the pages, it is based on the color of the bird. So it's easy if you don't know a lot about how birds are grouped together, and you can just look at the color of the bird you're looking at and go through the same birds with that color. The only tricky thing is it's photos, and photos are very difficult to ID from because not every single bird that you see outside is going to look like that one picture that's in the book. It's really difficult. So you can also get a more advanced book, which is drawings instead, and it gives you a lot more variety of the different possible colorations, possible shapes, sizes of the birds. So this is mine, and I'll pass it around so you can look through it. It's not organized by color, it's organized by taxonomic group. So all the hawks would be together, all the finches would be together, that type of thing. Tell me if I'm talking too fast, because I tend to talk very fast. So when we're IDing our birds of prey, there's 2 ways. Usually they're flying, which is a little bit more difficult, but if they're perched, these are the general parts of a bird that you should know. The nape is right here behind the neck, and the wings, the tail, the rump is right above the tail, and the breast and belly is just the front of the bird. Good? Okay. So for birds of prey, there are 7 main groups. There are hawks, eagles, osprey, vultures, falcons, and harriers are kind of in the hawks, but they're a little bit different. So in theory, if you're looking at a bird flying, based on its silhouette, you should be able to tell what group it's in.
Which one is the hawk?
Hawks are going to be these 2 here. the accipiters and the buteos. Those are two different types of hawks that are common in this area. Are these in the way?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. Then we'll put them down here for now. So, in general, hawks have a wider wingspan. The two types, accipiters, are more bird-eating hawks, and they have a long tail, and they fly very, very fast. And buteos are like the red-tailed hawks, the red-shouldered hawks, with a more broader tail. They don't hunt birds in general. And then we have osprey. Has anyone seen an osprey before? Awesome birds. They're finally back. It's springtime officially. And they fly usually with bent wings. Harriers are also along the water, and they're here in the summer and winter. They have a distinct feature, but we'll talk about that later. Falcons have very pointed wings because they're the ones that also mostly hunt birds, and they dive at really, really high speeds. Eagles and vultures, you sometimes can get confused because they have the same type of silhouette. They're huge, soars. Vultures are my favorite. They're the most amazing bird in the world. Any questions so far? Yeah.
Are the vultures around here in this area? Vultures?
Oh, all the time.
All over the place.
Yep. I just was at dinner yesterday and I saw 3. It was so exciting. Yeah.
Why are they your favorite?
They're just so awesome. They have great sense of smell, evolution-wise, how they have no feathers on their head because they don't want to get infections.
No messiness from all that roadkill.
Yeah, they go to the bathroom on their feet on purpose because it's so acidic, it'll kill all the bacteria that they're stepping in. It's so awesome. So vultures, of course, are our first.
My program, my favorite.
And specific when you want to ID vultures, you have to look for birds that are circling. They usually fly on thermals, which are big hot air that rises up, and then they fly up and then go down all around really gracefully. And
They use less of their own.
less of their own
They're like
energy.
renting all the airspace.
Renting all the airspace, and they want to make sure that they can be really high up so they can soar around and try and find something to eat. They'll never usually hunt on their own. They're scavengers. Sometimes they'll go after like injured animals or something, but for the most part, once it's already dead, then they'll go after it themselves. And we have 2 species of vultures here in Connecticut. This is our first species. Does anybody know what type of vulture this is?
Turkey vulture?
It's a turkey vulture. And we know it's a turkey vulture because of its pink head. And turkey vultures have the pink head coloration as adults. Sometimes when you're IDing birds of prey especially, immatures are so much more difficult because they all look the same, and we'll see that later. But pink head for adults. So when they're flying, so this is an immature, so he has a black head technically, but when they're flying, they have a like silvery underside of their wings for the whole portion of their wing. And that's the distinct way to tell it's a turkey vulture.
Over the marathon, all the time they're flying around.
All the time over the Merritt, all the time over Black Rock Turnpike. If you're in Fairfield, I think there's a roost or something behind Trader Joe's because there's 50 sometimes circling around there. And this is our second vulture species we have in Connecticut. Does anyone know what this is?
Very vulture.
This is the black vulture. Because they're all black and they have black heads. They're generally smaller than the turkey vultures, and when they're flying, there's another distinct difference. Their wingtips are only silver, and the rest of them is black. So they're a lot smaller. They're not as common. So if you see them, it's not necessarily a rarity, but it's pretty special. And they have a shorter tail. Any questions about vultures?
So most of the ones we're seeing around here are the turkey vultures?
Are the turkey vultures. Yep. Now, because it's migration, there's probably a good amount of black vultures too, but in general. And this is them in comparison, so you can see like the wing difference. All the gray underneath versus just the tips. So now we have our hawks. And this hawk is the one that I was telling you before. It doesn't really go into the accipiter or buteo category. Do you remember what it was? A harrier. Awesome. This is a northern harrier. And you see this white rump right here? That's a key identifying point for a northern harrier. If you see that, it's almost automatically
Underside.
going to be a northern harrier.
Can you see it? Is it white underside?
On the
too?
other side, it's just
No.
not really as distinct. So here is all the different varieties of the northern harrier. So in the picture book, this is kind of what I'm talking about. You might have just one picture, when in reality, it could look anything like that when you're in the field. So it's a little trickier with the photos. So the distinct white rump when they're flying, you can see it. They usually hover over marshes and look for small mammals in the marsh. So if you're ever on the coast and see something like that, it's most likely a harrier. The adult males are sometimes called gray ghosts because they have a dark gray back and like really white breast and chest area. Pretty cute. Any questions about harriers?
And they run up the Maine coast as well, all up and down?
I think so, yeah. They're here all year round, and sometimes in the winter I see them more down south. But for the most part, they're here all year round. And north of here. So now we're going into a category of hawks called buteos. And these are the broad-winged hawks that they soar. They usually hunt mammals for the most part. Here's our first one. It's a little tricky of a picture. Any guesses?
Red shoulder?
Red-tailed hawk. Awesome. And for red-tailed hawks, this is like more an immature because you can't really see the red tail as much. But also it's the underside. But do you see this band right here? Red-tailed hawks specifically have a dark belly band, it's called.
Will it fill in completely or stay speckled?
No,
like
it'll
that?
stay speckled. So this is a juvenile and that's an adult. But the belly band is when you think, oh, red-tailed hawk. They also are the hawks that usually perch on the lights along the highways because they hunt mammals. And they're pretty smart, but not totally smart because they know if an animal gets hit by a car, they can sweep down and get it. But then they don't realize that they also can get hit by a car. So a lot of red-tailed hawks that get injured is because they're hit by cars because they're trying to go after something that was in the road. We have one red-tailed hawk at the Audubon, and he was hit by a car. He's a little anxious, so I couldn't bring him today, but maybe next time. Good?
And they go after birds too, right?
They do go after birds, but not as much. They're more squirrels, groundhogs, mice, and stuff. Chipmunks.
I saw one that flew down and a squirrel that was running on
Really?
across the road. Yep, and flew off with it.
That's
It
crazy.
was amazing.
When I was at school, you could like sell your textbooks back. So there were these kids that were, I guess, in the textbook tent, like selling textbooks back all day from students. And they had one squirrel. They were like feeding and watching and stuff. And of course, that one squirrel, me and my friend were there, just gets picked off right as they've been like hanging out all day. I was like,
Got a
oh.
little beefed up on it.
Yeah. It's like, oh boy. So this is another buteo that we have here. Little beak. Any guesses?
Coopers?
Not a Cooper's. This is a red-shouldered. So they're very loud. I think I have one of their calls here. And they have the really red breast, red shoulders. It looks like when they're flying, so you can't really tell when they're perched in a tree. So that was a little tricky. Okay, here's red-shouldered. That's not a red-shouldered.
Oh, good.
It's a little wordier.
Yeah. Now, why does it say that? Hear it? So it's really like short calls over and over, while the red-tailed hawk, which is on here too, is more of a, it's called a keyer, which is this. Good? Okay. And red-shouldered hawks are a lot smaller than red-tailed. As adults, they do have a banding on their tail as well, so it's a lot easier to identify them by that. And they have the broad wings. They're usually in open or forest edge habitat, just like the red-taileds are. So they hunt mammals and birds, but mostly mammals still. Any questions about them? And our last Buteo that we're talking about is this one. This is a broad-winged hawk. And broad-winged hawks are really, really awesome. They're only here in the spring, summertime. They're one of our only hawks we have that migrates south, all the way to South America. And they migrate in huge flocks of thousands at a time. And they surf the thermals just kind of like the vultures do. And it's called kettles because it looks like someone's stirring a kettle of hawks when they're migrating south, which is really awesome if you ever get the chance to see it. Sorry, I have allergies. And these are all the variations of broad-winged hawks that you can see, so it's a little trickier. They have the tail band as well, but it's thicker stripes, and they're smaller. You're mostly going to see these birds during migration time, because once they're up here for nesting, they're interior forest species. They're here deep into the woods. Unless you're specifically going to look for them, you probably won't see them in your backyard necessarily. They do have more pointed wings compared to the other Buteos, and that's because they have to fly through the forest and the trees, so they're very good at flying. They hunt birds as well, more than mammals. And they're small in stature. Very small. One of the smallest Buteos that we have in Connecticut. And that is one of the hawks that we have today. So, I think she's in this one. We'll see how crazy she is. So while we have her out, of course you can take pictures of her, but just don't use flash. And sometimes she shoots out of the box, but just warning you so you don't get scared. But she's on a leash, so she'll be fine. Hi. Good girl. So this is Bella. She's our broad-winged hawk that we have at the Audubon in Fairfield on Burr Street. She lives outside in a big cage. She's a partial amputee, so she cannot be released because she cannot fly fully on her own. She was hit by a car up in Avon, I think. And because of that, she has a couple injuries. Her wing was broken, and she's missing a couple talons on her feet. So she can't catch her food like a normal hawk would be able to. Being really good today. I call her Krusty because she is the messiest eater ever and gets food stuck to her beak all the time.
Can you move her back into the light?
Mhm.
The projector? Thank you.
Oh, wow.
So she's very tiny.
She's ready for her clothes.
I know. She's very tiny compared to the red-tailed
she
and the
is.
red-shouldered. So you can see how small broadwings are. And just imagine thousands of them flying. It's so amazing. All of our birds we have cannot be re-released. That's what our permitting is for. We don't have a rehabilitation permit at the Audubon, unfortunately. So if we ever get any injured birds, they go to Wildlife in Crisis, which is the program that's doing the owl release here for you guys in a couple weeks. We just brought an owl there ourselves in the winter as well, so hopefully she's doing okay. Knew that was going to happen. And she is about 9 years old now. She came to us when she was almost 4. So she was a wild bird that is now with us for the rest of her life. She eats about 2 mice a day. They're already dead. It would be torture to give her a live mouse because she can't catch it herself anyways. Hey, it's okay.
How old will they live to?
Probably between 15 and 18 maybe. In the wild, half that. We just lost a peregrine a couple months ago who was 23.
Wow, just from old age?
Just from old age. So it just depends, I guess, on the bird, how healthy they are. You don't really know when they're wild birds because you don't know what happened to them before you got them.
Do they develop any closeness to people when they're in captivity?
I'm not really sure. I'd like to say yes because I just love them so much, but I don't know if they're more just nervous and just putting up with. I don't know if she's putting up with me right now or if she actually enjoys me next to her.
How many different handlers do they see?
There's about 4 or 5 of us, and we're all female.
And
so
do you ever see any change in the bird's behavior, different handler?
not really. It just depends on if they had to go to the vet with that person the time before or that type of stuff.
Here goes the car lady.
Yeah. Luckily, I never take them to the vet, so
Yeah,
I like to
good
think
job.
I'm the favorite. And you can see all of her like speckled coloration. That's because she is an interior forest bird, so she needs to blend into all the different leaves and the sunlight coming through the trees. So if she is trying to attack some other bird species or small mammals, she can kind of sneak up on them. Yep. Any questions about her specifically?
Does she have any predators?
In general, I would say most birds of prey don't really have predators except for if another bird was going after their babies. So maybe not necessarily her as an adult has a really big predator, but maybe her young might be attacked by another bird of prey or something. And usually females for birds of prey are almost twice the size as the males, and they are more darker in coloration because it's their job to protect the nest because they have more to lose. It takes a long time to make an egg, so it's their job. So they're a lot bigger, almost twice the size or weight, which you'll see with our owl. She's a female, so she's pretty large. Any more questions about her? No? Okay, let me put her back.
How old is she? I'm sorry.
She's like between 9 and 10. Being really good. It's kind of suspicious. Don't jinx me. And she has permanent jesses on, which are like the little ankle straps, and that's because she like is easier to catch with those, but she does not have the leash on in the cage. That's just for traveling and stuff, because by law they need to be tethered to us because it's safer for the bird, safer for you, safer for me. She likes to slap me in the face with her wings, so maybe that will happen today.
Okay, I was ready for that.
So, those are our Buteo hawks. Now we have accipiters. And accipiters are another type of hawk species that mostly hunt birds. They're the Cooper's hawks, the sharp-shinned hawks. They have very, very long tails. And for the purpose of this program, we're only going to be talking about one of them because in the summertime, only one is around here usually. And that is this one here. Has anyone seen this before? No, this is a Cooper's hawk. They're relatively large. They look almost exactly the same as sharp-shinned hawks, but they're just bigger. People call them feeder hawks because they love to perch by bird feeders and wait and eat the birds off people's bird feeders. Pretty smart. There's always pictures of them like perched on top of feeders, just waiting. So you can see how long his tail is here. So they have a very long tail. It's striped. They're grayish in color. They have pointier wings. Any questions about them? Here you'll see in the summer. Sharp shins are usually only here in the winter time, for the most part. You might see them now during migration time. Good?
Cooper's hawk, are you possible to see them along the ocean, or they tend to be more inland?
You might see them along the ocean. I don't think there's a distinction of where they go. It's not like osprey where they have to be along the ocean because they eat fish type of thing. So if there's food, they'll be there type of thing. Good? Okay. So now we have our osprey group. They're very distinct. There's only one species of osprey. They're here in the summertime. You can see the bent wings, and usually they have like two dark patches, one on each side. So they're seen along coastline areas. They only eat fish. They're one of the birds that, when DDT was still being used, their population drastically dropped because of all the DDT and the fish they were eating, caused their eggshells to be very, very thin, and they were crushing their eggs. But they're bouncing back. There's a lot of nesting pairs. There's a pair in Milford every year. They have a camera on it and stuff. If you go to the Milford Audubon, there's one in Greenwich.
And there was in Stamford at the ball field
Oh, really? That's nice.
a couple years ago.
There's one in Fairfield at the police station on the police transmission tower. And they always have to try and make sure they don't nest. Once they're nested, they won't bother them, but they try and get it before because apparently they were dropping all the fish. It was like getting all over the police cars and stuff, which is so funny. So that's why, like, almost like, I mean, if there's a fish this big dropping, it can almost smash the windows, I guess, if it's from so high up. So they're causing a lot of damage. And they also migrate south for the winter like the broadwing hawk. And we have falcons. We have a couple species of falcons here in Connecticut. This one is famous, I believe. What type of falcon is this? A peregrine falcon. Awesome. He's on a pigeon. Peregrine falcons love to eat pigeons. That's why they do so well in the cities now. So falcons have very, very pointed wings. So if you see a bird that's really, really pointed wings, most likely a falcon. And they're prominently dark, like backs, wings. Peregrines have a mustache, which you can't really tell, but this is considered a mustache. This dark spot right there, which is in comparison to merlins, which is another type of falcon. That's here in Connecticut in the winter time, and they look about the same, but merlins don't have the dark mustache coloration. A kestrel is also a falcon. Stealing my thunder. That's the next bird. So what is this?
So cute.
This is an American kestrel. They are endangered here in Connecticut, but not across the U.S. They are very small, the smallest falcon in North America. They usually hunt shrews, even like dragonflies and bigger insects because they're so tiny. Their distinct color is the rufous or red coloration along the back and tail. They have a black band on the tip of their tail. They're really cute. Sometimes they're seen on like telephone wires. You might be able to see them. They like to perch on there. So do red-shouldered hawks. They're on telephone wires usually. The males are a lot darker and smaller, more pretty coloring. The females more drab.
And they don't hunt birds? They don't hunt birds?
They don't usually hunt birds because most birds are almost as big as them or bigger.
So it'd be okay to have a kestrel box if you have a lot of other birds?
Yeah, that would be fine. Do you have a kestrel box?
No.
Oh. Yeah?
Why are they endangered in Connecticut but not elsewhere?
I think it's just where they like to nest in their habitat. They usually are in farmland areas. Whenever I've seen them, it's been more of a farm area, not a suburban area. And just because we're spreading out a little more, it might be just ruining their type of habitat they like to nest and live in. Any other questions? I hope we get a kestrel. That's my dream. So cute. Eagles. We have one famous type of eagle that's around here. What is it? A bald eagle. So this is bald eagle. They don't get their adult white tail and white head until 4 to 5 years old. So most of the time, if you see a bald eagle, it might look like this or even darker. This one I would say is like 3 to 4 years old because of all the white coloration it's starting to get on its head and tail. There's a couple nesting pairs now. There's one in Milford. There's one in Easton. Any others? Yeah?
Would you care to say anything about their nests?
Like how big they are?
Yeah, and how many times they come back to them or anything?
Oh, I know that sometimes they'll nest. Bald eagles are kind of lazy birds. They usually steal from others. Don't really hunt as much compared to other birds of prey. If they can take it from somebody else, they will. So sometimes they'll nest in old osprey nests, which are big, and then sometimes they'll build their own nests. I would say the nests are probably like maybe this big. I've never seen one up close, only from afar, but I'm not sure if they come back every single year. I'm assuming they should because if they have like bald eagle nest cams,
Yeah,
it's the same pair that returns, so I guess it just depends on the pair.
How big is, at maturity, how big is that wingspan?
That one is probably like between 5, 5.5, 6 feet.
And compared to an osprey, how big an adult osprey is?
Probably like 4.5.
Okay.
Red-tailed hawks are like 3.5 to 4. Vultures are 5.5 to 6. A lot of times people confuse turkey vultures and bald eagles because they have the same general shape, and if they're both soaring, it could be like the same type of thing. So here's some variations. So the adult is usually 4 to 5 years old. See, this you might not even think as a bald eagle if you see it flying around. Those are juveniles, which is like the first year. I think there's some bald eagle riverboat trips or something up and down the
they
Connecticut
have
River.
the light companies that own the properties, the electric companies.
Yeah,
They have like houses across the river so you can see.
yeah, Chapag Dam. If you
Yep,
ever go there in
yep.
the winter, I'm there sometimes. It's really awesome to be able to see them.
In the summer, I have a pool in my backyard. We thought we saw adult bald eagle soaring above our pool very far up.
That's awesome. I'm jealous. And bald eagles sound very girly, I think.
Even the boys?
Even the boys. This is what a bald eagle sounds like. So in the movies, when they have the big western scene and the eagle flying over, now you know it's not an eagle. Because this is what a bald eagle sounds like. Not that one again. Oh wait, nope, this is it. Don't expect that to be a bald eagle. It's so funny. It's such a big bird, and that comes out of it. It's so weird. Any questions? Okay, so our last group, which is usually the favorite, owls. We have a couple species of owls here in Connecticut. Screech owls, which are very, very small and kind of hard to find. They nest in boxes, sometimes wood duck boxes. Saw-whet owls are here only in the winter, so they're past their due date for leaving. Long-eared owls and short-eared owls, which are two species of like medium-sized owls that are here in the wintertime and usually not here around now. And then we have barn owls, which are endangered in Connecticut, but not in the rest of the world. And then great horned owls and barred owls. So, our first owl we'll talk about is this one here. What type of owl is this? Great horned owl. Awesome. See his feather tufts and his yellow eyes. So, great horned owls are seen the majority of the year here. They nest all over. They're the owls that everyone knows of with the big yellow eyes. So that's great horned owl. I've only seen one once in my life, and it was across from the high school I was at the time. A baby called a brancher, because they like go out of the nest and hang out on the branches, must have fell, and it was in the road. So we had to like pick it up, and I rode in a golf cart for the first time because I had the owl with me, and it was on the golf course, I guess, the nest. So crazy. So that's what they look like now. Owls start breeding in February, so at this point, the babies are bigger than that looking. More adult feathers. And they'll nest anywhere. They have the typical owl sound, the hoot sound. I think I have an owl here. So this is a great horned owl. Classic owl noise. Any questions about them? Yeah?
How can you attract one of those to your property?
I think they usually nest in forest edges, and I'm not sure if they use boxes or not. I don't think they do. Sometimes they'll also nest in old osprey nests and in trees, usually pine trees. Owls like to nest in because they're breeding in February and they want the cover. Pine trees are the only ones that have the cover at the time. So that's usually where you'll see them. I know there's a nesting pair at Sherwood Island State Park, and I guess in Fairfield by Brooklawn Country Club, because that's where I saw it. But just random spots. I'm not sure if you could attract them to your yard. And this is our other common owl around here. This is a barred owl, B-A-R-R-E-D. And barred owls are the most common, I think, that you'll see, in my opinion. They can be seen during the day a lot, or dawn and dusk time. They're not strictly nocturnal like other owl species. And they also nest in pines around February time. They say, "Who cooks for you?" That's their call. So we can listen to that too. pretty big. Sometimes out west they mix with the spotted owl, which is an endangered species in like Washington, Oregon area. And so this is an example of a spotted barred hybrid. We're not going to see this around here. So these are what you'll see. And they're called barred owls because they have the barring pattern all over their body to blend in with the trees. Dark eyes. Any questions about them?
Which is the biggest?
The biggest is going to be the great horned around here. Only by a couple inches,
How
though.
about out west?
Out west, probably great horned or like great gray owls. They're more up in the Canada area, I think.
Be that.
Maybe like that big. Snowy owls are pretty big, but they're not here now, unfortunately.
Do they
When
get,
you,
do they come this far south in the summer at all?
Snowies?
Arctic snowies, yeah.
Yeah, they do. I've
In the
seen
summer?
them a couple times. They're in
In the
Milford a
summer?
lot.
You mean regularly that they do?
In the winter, yeah, you can go to Milford usually.
Or in the winter, yeah.
Yep.
we had one last year who spent between 2 and 3 weeks on our rooftops in a 2-block area in Kennebunkport, Maine.
Oh,
And
that's
was there-
awesome.
Does that mean that there was something wrong with the owl?
No, that's fine. Is it in the
Really?
winter time?
No, it
Or-
was July. It
Oh,
was
wow,
July.
yeah.
And it spent the entire day, every day for like between 2 and 3 weeks, and then it left.
I don't know. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we saw it catch a mole in our yard.
Oh, that's cool.
So you don't think something had to be wrong with it? It's
No,
all
I
normal.
don't think so. I think what's happening with the
Good.
snowies that everyone's going crazy over is there's a really high, they think, lemming population. So instead of half of the babies dying, they actually all survived. And because of that, in the winter time, they needed to come down south more because there wasn't enough food during the winter up there. So they were just kept pushed down, down, down. I think there were snowies maybe 2 winters ago in like South Carolina and stuff or something crazy. And so maybe like those that were in South Carolina just moved up to the main area because why fly even farther? But they've been doing a lot of research on them and banding, putting transmitters on them and stuff. And I think 2 of the ones they put transmitters on last year around maybe January-ish time, because the transmitter saves all the data where it goes, but it doesn't have like a home base to record it to until they reach a certain point south. So once they reached that point south in January, they had all the data from all summer where the snowy owl was in like northern Canada area, which is cool. And our last bird we have here is this one. What is this? This is a barn owl. And barn owls are super cute. They're endangered in Connecticut. They're strictly nocturnal. You're not going to see a barn owl out during the day. I've never seen a barn owl in the wild, but sometimes there's areas you can go where they're known to nest. They have the heart-shaped face that everybody just loves. Males are almost pure white underneath, and they're endangered here because they are losing habitat nesting area here in Connecticut. They're not endangered in the United States or anywhere else. They're the most widespread owl species in the world. You can find them on any continent except for Antarctica. There's barn owls. They're all the same species, kind of like dogs are all the same species, but there's different varieties of them. So depending on where you go, they might change in coloration or size or something, but they're all the same. Any questions about barn owls? So Millie is our other bird, yeah?
Do they avoid the light because they hunt at night?
They just they usually hunt at night just because that's when their food's out. But I don't think the light necessarily bothers them. But so Millie is our last bird. She's a barn owl. She is very special compared to Bella because she's an imprint. So we're really lucky to have her. It's really hard to get imprinted birds because you don't want So an imprint is a bird that was raised by a person, so she thinks she's a person, which is good and bad. It's bad because we don't want that to happen, and we don't want birds to think that they're people and can't be released into the wild. But it's good because she can come to more like rambunctious groups and crowded places, and she doesn't get as stressed out as Bella might get stressed out. So it's good for educational purposes, but it's not like people, I'm not saying people should be imprinting birds all the time type of thing. She, I think, was a mistake imprint and was bred for a release program and imprinted by accident on the person that was rehabilitating her, so that's why we got her. Hi. You're extra crazy. What did you do? Okay. So, Millie has been with us for about 7 years. We got her when she was a baby. I can show you a picture of her as a baby later. I have it on my phone. She looks like a little chicken. She is full-grown adult. This is as big as she's going to get. Because she's a female, we know that she's a lot bigger than the males. So we have a male at the Audubon Milton, and he is half the size. She's about 650 grams, and Milton's about 300 and something grams. So Milton's a lot tinier. And because she is a female, she also has a lot darker coloration, and she doesn't have the pure white chest and breast that a male would have. Any questions about her so far?
How does she interact with the male?
They don't like each other. Well, first of all, we legally can't put them together because we don't have a license to start breeding owls. But
Well, if they don't like each other, that probably wouldn't happen.
But they don't like each other, so that probably wouldn't happen because they don't see each other as like alike. Because Milton's an imprint as well. So Milton will like try and mate with a person's foot instead of somebody else, another owl, which is kind of crazy. He's a little interesting. And Millie, so all owls have the disc-shaped face, and that is because over time, Millie, barn owls don't make the hoot-hoot sound. And they need to, when they're hunting or listening for prey, get as much sound as they can into their ears, and so the disc shape almost acts as like a sound collector. And owls' ears are also very special. They have, instead of two ears symmetrical like we do, they have one ear up here and one ear down here, and that is so they can have a wider range of where their prey might be. They can see, but keep in mind they're hunting in pitch black dark, so their hearing is a lot more crucial for when they're trying to find their food. Owls also, she usually eats her mice whole. She doesn't rip them apart like hawks do. And because of that, all the bones and fur can't be digested, so it gets stuck in here, and they cough it up, kind of like a hairball for a cat, and those are called owl pellets. So sometimes if you're looking in the woods and you see a lot of owl pellets around, you can like look up and try and find owls that way as well. In school, sometimes you dissect owl pellets in 3rd and 4th grade, and you pick out all the little bones and try and put the mouse back together, which is fun. Yeah. So I love doing that. So fun. Any questions about Millie?
Do you ever touch them?
The birds? No. Only touch them through the glove. Her talons are very sharp, so are Milton's. Because they're imprints, they're physically healthy. So they technically should be able to hunt on their own and all that type of stuff, but just for safety purposes and because she's an imprint, that's why we have her.
So you never pet her?
No.
Touch her, no?
No, I'm
What would she do if you did try?
See, she wants to.
She's like, I'm gonna bite you. That's what she's saying. Yeah.
Are there owls other than the
I would say most owls are nocturnal or out at dawn and dusk time. Snowy owls have to be not nocturnal because in the Arctic there's sometimes during the winter time and summertime there the light is so crazy. In the summer it's sometimes light for 20 hours of the day, so they have to be diurnal at that time. So barn owls don't make the who cooks for you call or the classic owl call. They are known to sound like somebody screaming. So if you hear that, maybe you have barn owls in your yard, which would be exciting. They nest in barns for the most part, different peaks or cave areas. That's why they're endangered here. Any questions about her? No?
What does she weigh?
She's about 620 grams. She's like, don't ask me about my weight.
You think she just doesn't have the cords that other birds have?
No, she does. It's just like the type of call they have.
Does she ever try to like just crawl up your arm or get closer to you?
No, and she can't because she's tethered.
Okay.
And one time by accident she stepped here, and I had like a little hole in my arm then because her claws are so sharp. But yeah, she never.
Wants a mani-pedi later.
Yeah.
Place right around the corner.
And owls also, they can't turn their head 360 degrees, but they can turn their head 270 degrees, which is almost all the way around. And that's because of the high amount of bones that they have in their neck. As humans and mammals, we have 7 bones in our neck. So how many bones do giraffes have in their neck? If they're mammals too. They have 7 as well. So they can't really turn their head fully around like birds can. Birds have 14 bones in their neck. So because she has so many bones that are so tiny, she has more rotation, which owls and other birds need because their eyes are stuck in their eye sockets. They can't move their eyes around like we can move our eyes, so they have to turn their whole head. Any other questions for me? Put her away.
Does Millie live outside like Bella does?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All of our birds live outside in a compound all year round, except for Milton because he gets spoiled. And he comes inside. But in the winter they have heat lamps and stuff in their boxes just to keep them a little bit warmer, but all the birds are here all year round in the wild anyways, so they should be fine.
Did you say they're not able to turn their eyes in their sockets?
Yes.
Not at all?
Nope.
Is that true of all birds? No.
I think it's true of most birds. It's like definitely owls, I think most birds.
What kind of an owl is being released into Canaan?
I think a great horned owl.
A great horn. Oh,
Mhm.
nice.
So that was my presentation. So thank you for coming. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Why did they get imprinted? Because they were so young when you had them?
I think it was because we got them from a breeder, Millie.
Oh.
And I think she was in like a captive breeding program where they were breeding owls to be released. And when she must have been hatched or born or something, it was like a mistake that she was imprinted on whoever was breeding her. And then because of that, she couldn't be released, and then she was placed with us.
How do you know when they're imprinted? What's the signs?
Honestly, I have no idea. I'm assuming as a rehabilitator, you have all these signs you have to go through because it takes a mass amount of hours to get your license, and you need to know all those signs in case something like that happens, but I don't know.
So whoever did this, you think it was intentional or inadvertent that they just, if they were a breeder and they knew?
Yeah,
know
I
what
think it
they're
was just a
doing,
mistake, which happens
To get-
sometimes, but
Like to touch?
yeah,
When you
or
say imprint, that's what happened? What line did they cross
It could have been
Yeah.
that they were in the cage too often, or were feeding them, and like maybe sometimes just didn't put a little like bird beak on or something, or they saw their face too much. Whatever it
All
is.
of that, or some of that.
Yeah. There's this funny, I mean, it's not really funny because it's somebody's job, but they do like releases for pandas. So
Oh,
if
you
you,
see the,
so you go in the, you have to go in the cage like dressed in a panda suit. I
Yeah.
think it's so funny.
well, that's what they do. The chimpanzees that don't have mothers, they have like this
Yeah.
vest and front outfit
Oh.
just of hair, and
Yeah.
all the volunteers and stuff are holding the babies
Like dressed as a
dressed
chimpanzee.
as
Like,
in the front, just all this hair like a
yeah.
chimpanzee.
And they're for cranes. Wear like this huge white like suit, and you
Yeah.
have this like arm that's apparently the neck of the crane. So it's crazy
Yeah,
stuff.
well, you see the puppet hands
Yeah.
that they use to feed the chicks and stuff,
Yeah.
so that they're not human hands.
Yep. Exactly. Anything else?
I'd just like to say, I watched 2 bird cams online,
Mhm.
and I love watching it because I watch day to day. I've been watching one on a red-tailed hawk and one on owls in
Aw.
Bourne. And day by day, you just see the total care of these
Yeah.
animals. It's fascinating.
There was a bald eagle. I don't know if you saw it. It was all over the news that they like laid the eggs, and then there's a snowstorm. So on the
Yes.
camera, it's like just the bald eagle from here up because the whole bird is covered in snow.
Yeah.
And those babies actually did hatch their hatchlings now and stuff, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Do you remember there's a website where you can record your own sightings of birds? I can't remember what the name of it is.
eBird.
What is it?
eBird.
Yes, that's a very interesting website if anybody's interested in looking at it.
Yeah, I suggest it.
Cool. What was it?
Oh yeah, I have a coworker, hawk flew down in her yard and got a snake. What kind of what hawks eat snakes?
Maybe like a red-shouldered hawk.
Okay, she didn't know, she just knew
Yeah.
hawk.
That's cool.
Yeah, but she didn't think it was too cool, but
She didn't have the snake anymore.
that's what I told her.
Snake problem.
Anything else for me? Okay, well, thank you again.
Thank you.